how do you find true love?
And so you attract true love. You attract that which you are. So I realized that I need to get into deep therapy, and to deal with not just, take this one, it's about to be bars, to deal with not just the daddy issues, but the issues daddy had.
And what's the differentiation there?
So a lot of times the blame is like, yo, you girl, you got daddy issues. Your dad left when you're that age, and you just daddy issues. You know what I mean? You can't hold a man daddy issues, right? But I took the time to find forgiveness first of all, and sit with my dad. And I'm going to say this before I go into this part. This came to me a few weeks ago. Forgiveness does not give you access to my future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Say that again.
Forgiveness does not give you access to my future.
Hey, boys in the barrel, boys, always in the motherfucking barrel. No, we keep it thorough. No, see me on the streets, don't be asking for referrals. Hey, no running back. We on the road, that's a fact. Came so far, no going back. See me in the club, keep it safe. We got my rap.
Julie, thank you for coming to the crib.
Thank you.
My sis.
Yes.
It's good to see you. You're looking fresh. You're looking fly.
Thank you. Likewise.
So we were just talking off camera. The last time I saw you was at NBA All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
That was a big weekend. That was a big weekend for you. That was a big weekend just in general. But
You saw me before.
you know what's great?
Thing,
yeah,
remember?
that's right. We connected before. I invited you to come with me to the Adidas party.
Yes.
You came out, and it was great because right before, you're like, you whispered at me like, I'm doing something tomorrow. I'm gonna sing the national anthem, but I'm gonna change a word. I remember you told me that.
I gave you a little hint.
You gave me a little hint, and it was great because then I gave the Complex people a heads up. I'm like, hey, keep an eye out. Julie's gonna do something cool, and then we covered it on Complex too.
Wicked.
But at that time, I just remember, even when you told me, I'm like, that's gonna be cool. It's gonna be interesting. I didn't realize the magnitude.
Me neither.
Of how that was gonna turn out.
Yeah.
How do you think about it now as you look back?
I still feel really good about it, for sure.
Yeah.
I've had to have certain security. There's actually been death threats. There've been up to recently.
I know you got some haters online and stuff. I didn't realize it was that
those were like,
severe.
But the police got involved because there was like some serious threats, and so, like they're like, okay, we gotta put some plain clothes, police.
Oh wow.
Have some security detail with me and stuff, so. But I still feel extra good about it. I think about my ancestors, and like, we wouldn't even be sitting here talking about this if they didn't make some sacrifices.
Yeah.
So.
It's always fascinating when you think of people who've strived to make change, and it's never easy. It never comes easily. Like it doesn't come without a fight. In many cases.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think because the way I was raised to just focus on community and service, it didn't feel like. It never really feels like I'm striving to make change, but it feels like I'm always here to serve.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not like this big weight that I'm carrying. But when you hear from people, especially indigenous folks, kids, it's like, that's how the elders taught us that way, and we don't sing it any other way. I didn't know. So it's to know, like, okay, there's things that we don't know about that. Sometimes it's to be another face, putting up a kind of like a mirror. They could see themselves in a sense,
right?
And me to realize, okay, what else don't I know? How else? I want people to help me as a woman, black woman, all the things. But am I willing to stand in the gap and be a truth teller for somebody that doesn't look like me?
If you had to go back and you had a choice to do it again, would you do it again?
Oh, 10 times. Probably do it in every language. I don't speak any other languages, but absolutely. Like I tell people though, it wasn't the word, it was the pause before the word.
Right.
And that's why I moved through my life now, and like, okay, Julie, just slow it down a bit. Take pause. You need it to land. Right? If you really want someone to, it's like, do you hear me? Are you listening? It's two different things.
It's fascinating because I've actually heard Jay-Z speak on impregnated pause. So he'll take an impregnated pause before he delivers a punchline. And that's a tactic he uses to make it more impactful as he's delivering that line.
It's big.
But how do you find that you have translated that into just every day, like taking that pause?
In every conversation that I have, is when I get really excited. So at times through excitement, the adrenaline, even I realize I'm speaking too quickly. But where I really learned it was from my vocal coach. Because when you speak quickly, it puts pressure and tension on your vocal cords and it causes damage. And so I went through a time where I was losing my voice. She was like, okay, take a breath. Take a breath. Like sometimes, why are you trying to squeeze in that very last word when we have nothing but time?
Right.
So slow it down a bit. And it helped me doing theater and everyday life now. I was like, okay, wait, slow down, Jully, slow down. Did you even hear what you said? It's very, very helpful.
When did you start thinking like this? Because I think I've known you for a long time. We were just talking about it's like our 15-year anniversary.
I know.
That we've known each other. We've known each other for a while.
Buy me something.
Little 15-year anniversary
Right.
gift coming up. I got something for you.
You got something?
I'll give it to you after.
Okay.
But going back to that though, 15 years I've known you, and I've also seen you develop in the public eye, grow as an adult, as a person, but as an artist, many things.
Yeah.
And when I think about the trajectory of lots of creatives, it's fascinating when you start to think about, specifically in the Canadian realm, how artists develop, because sometimes there's a lack of resources, sometimes there's a lack of infrastructure, just for different reasons. But I've been covering Canadian artists my whole career.
Yeah.
Right? I started on CKLN with like Ron
Whoa.
Nelson and these guys, right?
Bop, bop, bop.
So when I think about that, I look at artists like yourself and I look at the career paths that you've had. You, Cardi, Maestro, Mishi, like all the pioneers, right? And I think it's great that now the conversation is shifting to shed more light on the and celebrate like our pioneers. But for a long time, I feel like Canada didn't do that.
Yeah.
Hip hop in general doesn't really do that. Now it's starting to do that. Do you feel celebrated in Canada as a Canadian artist?
Right now, on today, I would say yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I often say it took 46 years to be 46 years old. And so when you're in your teens and your 20s, like I started singing when I was professionally, I think What It Takes, Choclair's song, my first feature, I think I was 16, 17, right? And so then it's pursuit. And to your point, where's the infrastructure? Where's the resource? Are we getting loan grants? Are we much fact and Google all that, right? Then you start to realize, wait, okay, if I don't take pause and celebrate, like some people have a vision board, I started to do an achievement board,
Nice.
right? And so there's plaques and awards, but when I started to really do like clip things, like print, put it on. Oh wow, that was it. And of all magnitudes, right? All levels, where it's like kids doing their project, Black History Project on me, or Women's Month project on me, predating the anthem. Like going back to scrapbook stuff that my mom would collect. My mom had some newspaper clippings from, it was Opera House, it was Ghetto Opera. Do you remember those? That there was Bump and Hustle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bump and Hustle, I was a part of that series a few times. And there was like Now Magazine, Peace Magazine, all those. My mom had those clippings, put that on my achievement board.
Wow.
20 years before I got a star on the Walk of Fame. If you're only focusing on the star on the Walk of Fame, what happened how did you get there? Right? And that's what helps with the maturity. It helps with the gratitude, for sure. And just pumps me up to be like, okay, if you did it before, you could do it again. Only this time, speaking of Jay-Z, I'll go back when I interviewed him way back for E-Talk. One thing he said to me off camera was, like I said, I'm a musician and I gave my music and all the things. And he said, I said, what piece of advice would you give me? He said, you spend the least amount of time at number one. So don't chase charts. And I was like, yeah.
That's great advice.
Right?
It's great advice because it's such a small percentage of your overall life.
Absolutely.
And the time, that's accurate.
Yeah.
And if you're chasing those highs, you'll be chasing forever.
Forever. Getting tired, getting burnt out. And what's the point? Where's this place that, and how is that, why do we look at that as our validation? Someone said your song is number one. It's so like subjective, right? So
I feel like I have this conversation literally with every artist. Do accolades matter?
So, okay, just today I said this to somebody.
Yeah.
I said, actually, I'm working on the morning show on Global, and my segments are about motivation. It's called Monday Motivation. I've been doing them for like 3 years.
That's so fitting for you.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly, right? I get to pump positivity into the world every week, right? Live TV. And I said, but the thing is, the show has never won any Canadian Screen Actor Awards, any CSAs. And now there's a new team, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're number one as far as the ratings, but we're not getting nominated, right? And some people are like, but we're number one. So it's split. The other part of the team's like, but we want that trophy. And I was like, well, LeBron should just quit then, because he still wants the ring. He doesn't need the money,
Yeah.
right? It's sport. So I think accolades, if you treat it like sport and something to really show your not just your resilience, but your work ethic, you know, and you celebrate your whole team. A trophy for me is the whole team: hair, makeup, wardrobe, management, you name it, band, engineers. It's not just for Jully.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what we were saying earlier with like just the trajectory of your career. Again, I know you're all about helping people, and there's a lot of young artists that are going to watch this. And I think, you know, a lot of young Canadian artists, they battle between north of the border, south of the border, where to go, infrastructure. Do I sign to, you know, the Canadian part of the label? Do I fight to try to get to the US part of the label?
Yeah.
I feel like you have a great you would have a great insight on what that looks like, because you've been signed to majors. I think you've done some stuff independently.
Oh, yeah.
You've done a lot on all ranging. When you look at a young artist coming up, just starting their career, and they're starting to strive for what their next step would be, and they're looking at, should I go to the US? Should I stay in Canada? Should I try to get signed to a Canadian label? Should I try to get signed to a US label? Should I go independent? What advice do you give to these artists?
It's a challenge. I'm going to be totally transparent, because my journey has been. That's why I have this tattoo, this complete
The bridge.
right? Because
Yeah.
I literally bridged the generations.
Right.
I've seen it. I'm predating streaming, from CDs to MP3s to like I actually lived through that technology, those changes, and I'm only 46 years old. So I often ask them to establish their why. Like, why do you actually want to be an artist? Right? It's really, you have to go. For me, it's really important to go deeper than the money, right? And to understand that you're a business. It's called a music business. So you are a storefront. You're an entrepreneur. No matter what, they're not signing the person. They're signing the product. And so, where can you be most productive? And where do you think could be most profitable? That's where you plant your seeds.
When you look back at your career now, obviously you've had a wide range of success in different things, even acting, and like you've done a lot of things.
Done a lot of things through sheer necessity.
Would you change anything in your career?
So there's one thing. Most people be like, "Oh, I don't have regrets." Nah, 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 nah.
Yeah.
There's one regret that I have. When I was signed to MCA Records out of LA, and they offered me an opportunity to live there, like to pay for my living for like 2 years, I stayed in Canada. And so my main regret is that I should have at least tried it and see. But so, like, I don't know if you remember that, it's like a Shakespearean, like Oedipus.
Yeah.
I was so like hooked to my mom. So it was more so being, I feel emotional. I didn't want to leave my mom. So, but she was like, go. She would tell me to go because she left Jamaica with nothing. So sometimes I forget that my family's not from here. So even now, you know, as I'm thinking about my next steps and realizing that it doesn't have to be permanently Canada. Walking in here is like, yo, I'm part-time LA and I'm part-time Toronto. You know, that was very inspiring. I feel like that was confirming for me. Like some of our first exchanges, as soon as we got together today, it was that. And that's what's been in my meditation, like,
Yeah.
where do you need me to go, God? Where would I be best of service?
Do you want me to get you a tissue?
Sure.
Give me
Thanks.
one second.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you know what's beautiful about, you know, when you speak about your mom, is that there's a relationship there that you could tell is beyond entertainment, beyond family even. It seems like it's you and your mom are connected almost like in spirit.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I've heard you speak about your mom a lot. Even just recently when you were commenting on one of the previous posts, you said, you know, my mom, you know, made this happen, or you're always talking about your mom.
Yeah, it's important.
And as I'm hearing you talk about this one regret that you have in your career, I don't even think it should be a regret, because you got to come back and spend time with your mom.
Yeah.
And look at how beautiful that's been.
Yeah,
that was, right?
for
Spending
sure.
time with your mom.
Yeah, spending time, being able to be her caregiver, you know, later on. I think the reason why I say, and most people watching this would probably be surprised that I'm saying that I have a regret. I'm so in my true authentic self, especially now. It's because it was a moment that I allowed fear to stop me from making a decision that I knew in my heart of hearts I was capable of doing. And so I think that's my message. That, you know, there's an acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real, right?
I hadn't heard that before.
You never heard that one,
No,
eh?
yeah,
Okay.
that's good. I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah, have it. False evidence appearing real. So it's like, take a moment. We're talking about the pause. Be like, you know, even a month, even go for a month, right? So I'll flip it to what back to my mom would say. Like, she'd say, Drew, if you see somebody, if a homeless person wants to offer you $1, take the $1. Don't say they need it more than you. Because what they're going to feel, the gift of the giving, is what's going to bring them to their next step.
I'll say this, especially because you always talk about ageism and all that. It's never too late.
Right, right,
You could still.
Well,
now,
I'm engaged
maybe
to
now is the right time.
My fiance's from DC, so I'll be
There you
living
go.
part-time DC. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I'll say that's it.
Okay, hold on. Your fiance.
Yes! Yeah! Every camera!
When did that happen?
Resurrection Sunday. Easter Sunday.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. I said yes.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, honey. Ooh.
I know.
Yeah.
Even leading up to this conversation, we were just going back and forth, talking about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And part of what you said is, you know, I want to talk about dating in your 40s.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What I know for you, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts with you. I've heard your TED Talks. I've heard like a lot of stuff that you've done and you've talked about. And I find that you're always very inspirational.
Thank you.
But something that you do mention in a lot of conversations is dealing with exes. That's like something that I feel like throughout your time of dating, you've had negative feelings, but you've been able to work through it.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And then now, look, first of all, I'm super happy for
Thank
you. Congratulations.
you.
That's awesome. I hope I get to meet him soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be Julian Valentine. His last name's Valentine.
It's a dope last name.
Dope last name, right? I might change my stage name. I might actually change my stage name to Julie Valentine. Okay, let's
You
go.
got to keep black, though.
I don't know.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
see.
Julie Valentine's got a nice ring to
It's
it.
got a nice ring.
It's got a nice
Come
ring
on.
to it.
Come on.
But let's get back to dating. So
Yes.
talk to me about dating in your 40s and even the stigma. As people mature, I think now there's always a rush for people to get married, to have kids, and there's a pressure that society, or it's not really there, but people feel like there's a pressure there.
Right.
How did you navigate through that, and what kind of advice would you give to people that are actually dating in their 40s?
Well, listen.
And how do you find true love?
And so you attract true love. You attract that which you are. So I realized that I need to get into deep therapy, and to deal with not just, take this one, it's about to be bars, to deal with not just the daddy issues, but the issues daddy had.
And what's the differentiation there?
So a lot of times the blame is like, yo, you girl, you got daddy issues. Your dad left when you're that age, and you just daddy issues. You know what I mean? You can't hold a man daddy issues, right? But I took the time to find forgiveness first of all, and sit with my dad. And I'm going to say this before I go into this part. This came to me a few weeks ago. Forgiveness does not give you access to my future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Say that again.
Forgiveness does not give you access to my future.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right? That came as like, I was doing a fireside chat, and it came download, and instant chills and woo, and I was like, okay, I'm doing this therapy, I'm doing this work, I'm hearing the messages, it's working. And so, but I had to know, as far as the issues that he had, how he became who he became. 40-something kids. You know, he married my mom. They had a love story, all the things. I was birthed from it. However, they didn't call it emancipated child back then, but he was on his own since he was 12, right? So his relationship with my grandma, why he didn't really have a regard for women. No, like, he wasn't loved on and protected. You know, he didn't have that first love story, which is supposed to be my grandma, his mom, right? So it helped me to start to take the pressure off of my expectations of how he was supposed to be. You know, there's no manual. I'm not saying that you can't learn, you know, but in my 40s dating him, I was dating my dad. I was attracting my dad over and over again, which for me, it ended up that I was accepting breadcrumbs. Because any bit of dad, if you'd come around even for a little bit, I was happy. Right? That transferred into my dating life. Mm-hmm. Any little bit of time, you know.
You were allowing yourself to settle for lesser then.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
It's because it was familiar to you, or
very
because
familiar. Very, very.
So you
familiar.
were attracted to the familiar.
That's right. That's right. You only know what you know.
Right.
Right. To simply put it, and so, but I had to be ready to be alone and not lonely. I had to separate that. Even though I'm alone, I don't have to feel lonely.
Julie's dropping bars today. Bars.
It's true, and it's the pandemic that really put that in perspective. But I'll even go back to 2016 when my mom was diagnosed with cancer,
right?
And it was put everything down. I was in a relationship at the time, terrible one, and instantly my emotional priorities changed when I found out my mom was sick. So let me realize chemically, oh, okay, wait. You can decide this or this. Right?
In a moment of clarity, you realize what's important.
That's right. And I was 40 years old at that time. So, you know, I think that it's important to make sure you edit your friendships. There's relatives versus family. Know your relatives are very different than your family, right? And this is what helped me get to the point to attract Valentine, where it's like, when I least expected it, and he's 55, when he least expected it, we found each other, and here we are.
Wow,
it's a wonderful thing. Love is great, and that's the thing. At one point, I was almost like, kind of like the too good to be true vibes, right? And there's also, I realized that there's a bit of stigma around love, being in love, and falling in love. And it was like, no, let's normalize that. Let's normalize this. Yeah, let's go back to the love songs we used to listen to, our grannies would play, and we wanted to hear endless love or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't have to be side chick, side man, all type of things. Had that. We all came through the portal of a woman. Something had to happen for us to get here. Let's go.
I also think that your specific case is unique because you're very recognizable in Canada. So I think even for somebody like you dating, like, oh, I happen to be dating the queen of Canadian R&B and soul. Like,
problems.
That's.
So let me tell you something, Alex. Let me tell you. It got to the point where people were questioning, and this is, I'm going to say this respectfully so people don't try to cancel me, questioning like my sexuality, because I was never attached to anyone publicly, right? All my relationships you didn't see front facing. So then when Val and I got together, I was even like nervous to even put up a something. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then all my male friends, go figure, married, been married. Cardi been married like 2009. Married.
Right.
Right?
I'm married. Yeah.
Married.
Right.
Right?
So what do you think that is? What, even so, because if you're looking at even just the numbers that you described, right? Like, it seems like a lot of the guys that you know that you're around are married.
Yeah.
Do you find that a lot of the women in your circles are
single?
Not? Really?
So this is another thing I had to do for myself quietly, and I took the prayer. I said, God, I want to start hanging with happily married women, couples, yeah, but I need to lean into my married friends. And there came the champagne room. Usra was over there. Usra and Jen, us three are the champagne room, and it's a whole other thing. They're married, they have kids. I'm auntie to her kids, and the husbands are super dope. So I saw the type of husband vibes that I know I would need. You know what I mean? Confident, secure. Yeah, go. We travel. We do all the things, and go champagne room, go. So when Val came into my life, hey, this is champagne room. It's a non-negotiable, by the way. Oh yeah, champagne room, great. I got my own version for my boys, so it's great.
It's interesting to hear too, because I think a lot of people, as they get older, they struggle with dating. And it's not necessarily because of the age, it's because the outlook of age.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh,
because if you're healthy minded, you could date and be happy, but it's again the pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? I have a lot of friends who are single, and very much like what you described, they're unhappy being single.
Right.
But it's because they maybe haven't done the work to be happy alone first.
100%.
Right?
100%. I was dating. I finally said I'm going to do a little dating, right? And then, took a trip and a half around the sun. And I had to give myself my own deadline. I asked myself, what do you really want, Jully? And I was like, okay, no, this isn't going where I needed to go. I realized through therapy, I've never broken up with somebody in my life.
Really?
In life.
So you were hanging on until the wheels fell off.
Like Vince Carter in the thing. Yeah. Freaking dunk off like, yo, dangling, brethren.
Wow.
Yeah. But let me tell you what, this is going to be very spiritual.
Yes.
I found this out through another form of therapy, that I was experiencing some prenatal trauma, because I'm a twin, and I lost my brother. He was 3 days old, right? So I spent time with this person. And so separation anxiety and always feeling like something's missing, someone's missing. Because someone is missing. My twin brother is missing. Right?
Yeah, I've heard you speak on this. I heard you speak on this in a great podcast. I heard a great podcast where you spoke a little bit about this, and it's interesting because now as an adult, grown, is it still something that you think about? Is it still something that you feel?
So I'm gonna say no. I don't feel it. Back to your healthy mind. You see the mindset, my outlook. Now with spirituality, especially anchored in spirituality, I realize like, okay, well, we could have been in different positions. The Lord could have took me and saved him, type thing. So there's a purpose for me to be here, and I just don't want no more excuses. There comes a time you can't be out from the hood and this and that and that and this. Okay, and what? You're gonna still say that's the reason why you're not thriving? You're not trying? No.
What do you say to somebody? I'm in a similar situation too. I lost my mom when I was quite young. I think I was like 20. Yeah, and to you as well.
Thank you.
I think I was like 25, and I lost my mom to ovarian cancer. So it was a really tough point in my life. And I think what's interesting about grief is that it's very different for everybody. Right? 100%. The way I handled grief was very different than the way my sister handled grief, to my father handled everybody handled it really different. So when you try to give somebody advice on grief, it might work, it might help somebody, and in some cases it's like foreign, like people don't want to hear that advice. Yeah. It's not going to work for them. What worked for you when you were grieving over your mom, and are you still grieving? Are you over that? How have you healed?
No, grief is forever. Grief, this is my belief around grief. Grief is one size, and it stays that size, and then you grow around it. You can stay small and very, very close to it, or you can grow around it, but it stays the same size. And I say that to say, when people say, for example, like Mother's Day will come, I'm not sure if you experienced this, and in the beginning, people would be like not want to share what they're doing with their mom, or they'll share really somber. Oh, I'm just taking my mom to dinner. Oh, I'm just low tone. we're gonna go on this trip, but you know. And finally I start to be very audible about it. Like, why are you downplaying what you're doing with your mom? You know what I mean? And a certain person said in particular, I don't want to remind you that your mom's not here. I said, you can never remind me. That is fact.
Right.
Just like the grief. But it's now, how do you turn the grief to greatness?
Right.
And it's that, you know, for my grandma passed when my mom was like, same, like 20 something, right? My mom had me at 42. She was gonna be 41. So I think I stopped, I'm like, whoa. So if mom decided to let grief pin her down before she decided to get up, there'd be no Jully. There would absolutely be no Jully. And it's those reminders that I have to tap myself on the shoulder and say, hey, listen, fix up here. Cry. There's science. I forgot who said it, but there was science around not being able to cry straight for more than 90 seconds. It might have been like a Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of the people. After that amount of time, you're now deciding to be a victim. You're choosing to force out the tears. Right? And when I heard that, I was like, okay, so let's let it flow. But scientifically, it's going to stop. And then you memorize the memory. So I often say, are you the thought or are you the thinker? Your thoughts are 60,000 thoughts. But being the thinker, we are now placing the thoughts in there. Oh, I wish mom was here. Oh, I miss you. Oh, of course. But there are times where I'm like, off to see the wizard, like clicking my heels, right? And some people don't realize that we're not going to always be in sorrow.
Yeah.
And there's different types of loss. There are people who have, there's loss of person, but I know people that have lost their title, that have lost the other things that you would think they lost person. Right?
And at the end of the day, when you, again, going back to a moment of clarity, when you look at the priorities and what matters, titles really don't matter.
Come on. You know how many unhappy people I know in all type. So when I was single, when I tell you the amount of unhappy foolery relationships I was observing and hearing about, and some of my former friends now, because I don't even talk to them anymore, because I was like, that's not authentic. I cannot co-sign the Christmas party relationship. Okay? I can't co-sign that.
Right.
I can't. Just to say, nah. Go buy a dog.
If you're lonely, get a pet.
Go get a pet.
More bars.
I'm on my third dog. All good. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of dogs and pets and growing your family and being engaged, I know another part of the conversation we were leading up to is not having biological kids. Right? And I think, again, that also there's so many factors. It could be culturally, could be age, it could be so many things. But for some people, there's a stigma not having kids after a certain age, or just not having kids in general. Unfortunately, for some people, they want to have kids and they can't. Right. And then there's the people who just choose, I don't want to have a child, and that's it's amazing because it's a choice. Right. But how do you look at it? Because this is a conversation that I think is different for many people.
Very, very different. So I'm in menopause. It's my first time saying it out loud. I found out officially last week that I'm officially in menopause. And that's when it hit me for a hot second. I was like, okay, I never thought about wanting kids, not wanting kids. I have 18 nieces and nephews. My sister passed when I was 12, left two literally infants behind. So we raised them, I raised them. I felt like I was a teen mom. And they're all grown now, which is great, Andre and Chantal. So I never thought about that. And I was on the pursuit, career, all the things, what I want to be, where do I want to go, who do I want to become. So kids never really, and then I wasn't with the right partner. Funny enough, it's not like I was with the right person to say, hey, I know you love the career, but when are we gonna, well, first of all, when are you gonna ask, and when are we gonna do this? So now when I'm at the point where they're saying it's no more, there was some grief. There was some sadness that set in for a hot second. And it made me reflect on some of the longer relationships I was in. Because I was in a 9-year relationship, 6-year relationship. There wasn't no like a one-off here and there. Like long-term girl, right? But then I think about my mom. And it was 2 weeks before she passed away. She was bedridden now. She was slightly audible, very soft-spoken. I was in the bed with her. And she said, Ju, do you want to be a mother or do you want to have a baby? And I didn't even think. I said, I want to be a mother. She said, good. Don't make nobody rush you. You have your entire life.
Mom's got bars too.
Bars, all type of bars, right? Trust. And she left me that gift. This is a woman that had 9 kids of her own. So she loved kids. You know what I mean? But now, over the past few years before she passed, I was interviewing her, and I found out she was raped by a taxi driver, pregnant, in the 50s, kept the baby. She said, right? So I'm like, whoa. Sometimes you see people have all these kids where they conceived in love. Or is there really the option to terminate? Right? So it makes me sit in peace. I have peace around it, you know. And I think that people just need to stay out of people's business, really and truly. Like, don't police my body and stop policing other people's bodies.
And again, it's almost like putting your expectations on somebody else.
100%.
Or your outlook on somebody else.
Yeah, I will say this though, and I'll speak directly to the women. If you truly want to have children, take agency over your reproductive health. Look into freezing your eggs, embryos. Speak to your partner about it. It's not just about us. There's some men with some sperm count issues as well. So take agency right away. Right away. I would have done it in my teens. If I had the information and the resource, I would have invested. Be like, yeah, let's freeze up some eggs. Why not? Right? Doesn't hurt.
Right.
Even if I need to donate those eggs to somebody else.
Right. Yeah. Interesting things to think about now, because it hits you when you're at the point where you're like, I should have done that.
Right.
But you're not thinking about it when you can, in many cases. Right?
In many cases. But I have nieces, and I have fans and followers, and we have 100 Strong and Sexy, and all these organizations that I'm a part of that I've created. So the best way I can serve is to really share my life. And that's my superpower. Vulnerability, I will tell you it all. I bear it all. Really and truly, and it's helped me heal quite a bit.
It's great how honest you are, because I think every time I hear you speak, or anybody hears you speak, you learn.
Yeah.
Because you're not putting up walls.
No.
And when there's walls up, that's when you don't learn. That's when someone's too protective to share.
That's it. Notice you didn't send me questions.
No, there was no. This is a very organic
but you know why?
conversation.
I'm gonna bring my mom up again. My mom said, she's just a mom. And I speak about her in first person like she's still here. I don't say was, she is. She's still doing her work. And she said, when you tell the truth, you'll never have to write it down. Bars.
That mama had bars.
Seriously.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Show up and tell the truth.
I do want to talk about there's so much I want to talk to you about, but I do want to talk to you about some of the highlights in your careers. In your career, you've had so many beautiful moments in your career. What would you say is like a highlight for you, like that if you had to pick one, is the biggest career highlight for you?
So the biggest career highlight for me, unfortunately Mom wasn't here to see it in natural, was playing Caroline in Caroline or Change at the Elgin Theatre, leading that company. I'd never done theater before. 29 songs, 300 pages, committing that to memory, having no understudy. So making sure my vocal care, everything was pimped tight, right? Not to mention, it was a breakthrough moment for me because I don't sight read. So I don't read notes on pages, right? And I learned it all by ear. And now, I'm going to shout out a man, his name is Mr. Lee Willingham. He's actually my friend Jeff Willingham's dad. He teaches at McMaster University, and he's been working hard to be able to change how you gain entry into these music programs. Because there are so many people from different communities, especially, that couldn't afford to go just learn the how to sight read, but our ear is super strong, right? So how do we get to audition if there's that type of red tape or there's gatekeeping? So Caroline or Change was such a pivotal moment for me because that's a Tony Award winning, and then I won the Dora Medora Award, and I won the Toronto Theatre Critics Award, and it wasn't because I was Jully Black. I had to go in and really work super hard. It took me a year to get that in me, right? And the true rehearsals were 6 weeks, and I told him if I'm gonna sign on, I need a music director and I need the director to meet with me once a week, and everything, I didn't charge them until the 6 weeks. So I was like, I'm ready, let's go. So that's the biggest career highlight for me.
And I guess it's a highlight for you too, because you had to put in a lot of work to get it done.
Oh yeah.
You appreciate it more because you had to really, it didn't come easy.
It didn't come easy, and you start to realize, like, even like as far as memorizing lines, like the brain could only hold so much.
Right.
And you have to stop. You have
How
to
many
sleep.
pages did you say? It was 300?
Yeah. You have to stop. You have to sleep.
Wow.
So you can't, and you know, when I speak to the youth, especially in school, and they got to study for exams, it's the same thing. And I actually asked my friend Jen, who her daughter's a child actor. She still is an actor, but she was acting since she was like 4. I'm like, how did you get the lines in her head? And we did the same technique that she did with this child. Chunk it into pieces, just be patient. And that's life. Just be patient. It's granular. Take your time. I just got, you know, as far as my hormone panel, okay, cool. Okay. We're gonna get some hormones. We're gonna look into some more longer fasting. We're gonna just be patient with yourself, Jully. Give yourself grace.
I also love how much you take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Even this drink you're drinking, we're talking about it leading up to it. Please, so what do you got in here? You said you had
vitamin C.
vitamin C.
I have electrolytes.
Okay.
And I have, what else do I have? Oh, magnesium.
Magnesium.
And a fresh organic lemon.
Amazing. So I'm gonna adapt this recipe for my mornings now
I'll send
too.
you pictures of
Please
what
do.
Yeah, so good.
But let's talk about like this health journey you're on. 100 strong and sexy. Like I've been seeing you do this for a few years now, and it's amazing.
Oh yeah, thank you.
I also see all your workouts that you post. I follow you avidly, and you give me encouragement to also like work out and stuff. So
thank you.
I think let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. When did you? I know you've always been a fit person, but when did you really dive into like the health component?
So true story. My late sister Sharon, she was a triathlete, visual artist, singer as well. She didn't think she could sing, but she her voice. I feel like she left me her voice. She also left me her mole. That's a whole other story. So when she passed, I was 12 years old, and so she used to ride, and I'd ride behind her and all the things, and she just instilled health in all of us early. But then I was like, she's so healthy, and she just died suddenly. Like, no, to this day we don't know. Autopsy inconclusive. 24 years old. We're like, what happened?
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. But I was always into sports, and she was into sports. So she's still my idol to this day. Like, there's certain things I'm like, Sharon would have done that, I'm gonna do that. Sharon wouldn't do that, I'm not doing that. And so health was everything. Like, mom would have to cook a separate pot for her. I remember her eating very different than the entire family, right? And slowly would start to adapt, right? But once I finished playing sports in high school, I needed to take on something else. Like, my mom would say I was so charismatic, I had so much energy. Oh, so much. I needed somewhere to put that energy. And so that's when I started working out in the gym. I became an artist, yeah. And so I just didn't want to be a battered apple. Like, I don't want to be battered, bruised up apple or some dented up tin can. Like, I always had this, you're a product in my head. Maybe because I got signed early to Sony when I was 14.
Right.
And America, they just had a different mindset around about being marketable. And so it was important to stay fit. And Tony Robbins said this. I can't take credit for this one. He says, positive motion equals positive emotion. And so I have to get moving. And when I ride, I pedal for my mental. I always say, pedal for your mental, you know?
And at what point did you make it communal? Because obviously you started alone on the health journey, and then you started to bring other women into this journey with you. Yeah,
so 2018, so it was a year after my mom passed away. I was on the plane with my bass player, Alex. Alex Sampson, I'll give him credit for this. He has such an entrepreneurial mindset. And he was like, you know what? You need to just find 12 disciples. And go on a 100-day journey. He's like 100 strong, and I said, and sexy, and yeah, gotta put the sexy in there. And I was like, okay. So I put it on Instagram, and 56 women signed up, and I was literally monitoring it myself on emails, but it was cutthroat. Like, you had to do your workout, post your food, send me a collage of your food, and if you didn't send me by the end of the week, you were kicked out. Like, period, out. And
Drill sergeant vibes.
Yeah, serious drill
yeah.
sergeant. You're serious. But what happened? Yes, there was community, but there was also people were off blood pressure medication, off insulin, depression gone. Like it was confidence up, and I was like, so then they're like, you can do it again. You can do it again. You should start it January for New Year's. I was like, nah, December 1st. So we went August 1st to November 8th. The 100th day is my birthday. Couldn't plan that.
Right.
So I was like, no, gimmicks are January. No, you want in? We're doing December. How are we going to do it through Christmas? We're going to eat. Well, it's up to you. And or you're kicked out. Like 200 women signed up.
No Christmas turkey or none of that.
It was crazy back then. And so we're going on 7 years.
That's amazing.
this year.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. It was really about turning my grief into greatness. I'm not going to lie. Because it was stop at the liquor store, go get my at the time was Neil Brothers chips. Like I was starting to spiral. I was so fit though my body didn't recognize it. I'm not trying to say that to be like, oh, like I tell people, you need to be healthy enough so that when something's wrong, your body tells you. Right? But if you're just unhealthy, period, you're gonna miss that constipation could be something going on with your colon. That pain could be, right?
Right.
So my body, I really took care of my body so well. Like even with this going on with the menopause and the perimenopause, I just knew something was up, something's wrong. So I know you have low iron or what else did they tell me? Oh, it was grief. It must be the grief. Oh, your mom died. It must be the grief. I'm like, oh, something's wrong. No.
You got to listen to your body.
Yeah. It's shouting. It's shouting at us. Right? What was that quote about the symptoms? If your body had language, it would speak to you in symptoms.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's Dr. Mindy.
Dr. Mindy. Everybody's got bars.
Yeah, bars.
That's a good one.
Right?
But you know what? It's true too, because even a lot of people who've been diagnosed with cancer and things like that, they could have caught it earlier if they were more attuned and sensitive to what their body was showing them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Because there could be shame that comes with that,
big time.
right?
I have a friend, thank God he caught it. He had blood in his stool and all types of stuff, and he was like, no, I have to tell somebody. I was like, yo, blood in your stool, go.
Yeah.
Go. And it was 3rd stage colon cancer, but they caught it. They took part of his colon out, and he's still here 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right?
I know part of the problem too is even the age that's recommended for testing.
Oh gosh.
Like, do you know Bishop Brigante?
Of course, I just reposted him yesterday.
Yeah.
Too.
So Bishop,
100%.
Friend of mine, and he's unfortunately battling colon cancer at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And his whole fight at the moment is to try to get that age reduced.
Yeah,
because I think it's
50. That's ridiculous.
It's 50, the recommended age for men to get colon cancer tested, and it's like, by that time, a lot of men have died.
I had a cancer scare, breast cancer scare when I was 27. They would not give me a mammogram, but my doctor, and that's the thing. It's and the relationship you have with your doctor. You may need to break up with your doctor. Like if that doctor's not advocating for you, not pushing for you, break up with them. So my doctor, amazing woman, she just retired recently. She got me down to Sunnybrook. We're like, nah, they did biopsy, it was fine. Did what they had to do. But they were saying no, because you're not 40 or something, or whatever the age was back then, right? So, yeah.
I also want to talk to you about just Toronto in general. I know you love Toronto. You're native from Toronto. Jane and Finch.
Jane and Finch, yeah, Finch girl.
What was it like growing up in Jane and Finch for you?
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. It's just the best word coming up. She's from Finch too. We've been friends since grade 3.
Oh, nice.
It's where I learned diversity. People think Finch and just think black, and no, it was all cultures, right?
Yeah.
And that's where my palate got taught about different foods. Funny enough, right? And so I loved it. It's the happiest times of my life, to be honest with you.
Do you ever drive by Jane and Finch?
We drive by. I go in. I still go to my doctor, my dentist. We just did there's a place called The Spot in Yorkgate Mall. Yeah. And we went there to do an event on period poverty, hygiene poverty. It takes the average girl $29 a month to be able to pay for her supplies, and sometimes they don't have $29. So, You know, they have to
Right.
go and get stuff. Things you don't think about, especially
Right.
people who are displaced. Like, oh wait, women are still having a period. Where are they getting their supplies?
Yeah.
And so that's some of the work that my mom would say, you know, there's work you do in private that you'll be rewarded in public. I do a lot of private work, you know, and it's so fulfilling and rewarding, and to know that, and I'm listening to the youth too, and listening to that generation. And some of the counselors are brethren that used to live in the neighborhood that are now the counselors. So it's nice to also hear how they're thinking. A lot of the young people, I wish that more of us could sit with them to be in the position to learn from them, to be at their feet, right? Because I think that sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll hear from Jully Black and tell your story, but their mindset, and some of them who are really like not giving their body away, or, you know, having the entrepreneurial spirit, you know, recognizing spirituality versus religion. These are the things, some of the things that I really am in awe of their maturity, you know, and how much we can learn from them.
Yeah, it's. I also think when you have the education to even help, the knowledge to help other people, I think it's important to pass that on. I started this whole other thing called Scarborough Made with a partner of mine. I'm a Scarborough boy.
Okay,
I'm an East End
Scarborough,
guy.
we're doing something for Scarborough on Sunday.
Amazing.
Scarborough Proud is called on Sunday. Step my aerobics.
I saw you post that, and we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that in a sec.
Yeah.
But Scarborough Made is just something that when you look at the news, put on CB24, whatever, any news channel, for the most part, when you hear of Scarborough, it's like there's a stabbing in Scarborough, there's a shooting in Scarborough. It's always like that. Jane and Finch is the same.
Yeah.
Jane, there's like a car robbery in Jane
Yep.
and Finch. You never hear of the good things. Rarely, seldom, at Jane and Finch or Scarborough. It's two very similar communities in that way.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, we started Scarborough Made. It's really just to change the narrative in Scarborough.
Yeah.
We go around telling different stories of local heroes in Scarborough. And it's done well. It's turned into a project sponsored by the city of Toronto. It's a whole thing now.
I love it.
But what made me think of that is because it takes people like us to go back to the communities and help and create a different narrative.
100%.
When you think of Jane and Finch, and even you growing up in Jane and Finch, were you aware of the reputation that Jane and Finch had when you were growing up in Jane and Finch?
Oh, 100%. It was to the point where teachers, even though the teachers are teaching in schools that are in the neighborhood, they treated some of us quite different. You know, I'm like, do you think we're being bussed in from some other place? Like, we live in this neighborhood. Why are you treating us different? You know, treating us poorly, or encouraging us to take general courses when we're qualified for advanced courses, trying to push us to stay in the arts and not really explore math and economics and sciences and STEM and all that, right? So, yeah, I experienced certain things in the neighborhood that's like, you need to not teach here, you know, but truly, sometimes unruly. I've always been pretty outspoken, and really would challenge some of the things that would happen there, right? So one thing I would say, especially like something happened at Jane, and you may not know the areas, especially those who are watching, but let's say it's a place like Jane and Finch. First of all, it's an intersection. There's nobody that lives on the intersection,
Right.
Right?
It's the surrounding community, yeah.
Correct. But then you'll hear like, oh, something happened at, you know, Weston Road, or something happened just way far away from Jane and Finch, and we're getting the blame. So no, that wasn't Finch. That wasn't Jane and Finch. That was Kipling. Stop.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're just grouping it together
Just grouping
at this
it
point.
together, you know. And there are some people, you know, like just this past weekend, I was in Sudbury, and for this festival called the Northern Lights Festival. And I saw this guy, black guy, a little beard, now smile, like he looks familiar, wasn't sure. Got closer. It's my brethren from high school, Ben. And Ben was Ben was kind of a bad man back then. And he moved up to Sudbury 9 years ago with his wife, opened up a jerk restaurant, and bought the building, pardon me, you have to remember that part, bought the building, opened up the restaurant, and it's thriving, you know. And it was just like, he's like, I follow you, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I'm proud of you, right? Brought him up on stage and, you know, told everyone about when they ate the food first, because I said, Bridget, the food better slap. And the food slapped. And but it's nice to see another Finchy doing well, right? Dwight Drummond, Luther Brown, you know, Jay Blazes, quite a few others. Like as far as Mishi, of course, Dream Warriors. But Dwight Drummond was like my Boys and Girls Club counselor. Like I was a kid. He was my whatever person. So
Yeah, the Jane Strip in general has produced a lot of great talent.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Scarborough too. I always got to rep Scarborough.
Big up Scarborough. Big up Scarborough. Listen, it's not the day where, we're all at war and stuff, because back in the day, you think I could put up Scarborough Proud on my page? I'll be fighting things. I'll get disowned. Right?
For sure. So tell me about this thing you have coming up in Scarborough.
Yeah, so it's a it's a community event.
Yeah.
They've been paying attention to the power of step. Power of step is another pillar that I have, which is
this
step
is what
aerobics.
I see you doing all the time.
It is my playground. It's my Canada's Wonderlife. I'm like, that's my behemoth. That's my Leviathan.
You got the rhythm down. The way that you step on and off, I'm like, she's got it like one swift motion at this point.
We teach it.
Yeah.
We teach it. And so on Sunday, so at the Scarborough Proud event, people could come. We're providing steps, learn some basic moves, and just jam out. We need to be outside again, block party style.
Why? I mean, there's so many forms of exercise. Why did this one speak to you?
Very good question. Pandemic hits, all stages close. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to step back in the day, and it's a friend at the time was like, do you remember this? Do you have a step? I'm like, no. It's from like the 90s. Mine's in the trash. She's like, go get one. So I went, got the last one from the fitness store. And we started following this guy named Phil Whedon out of Cleveland. Extreme Hip Hop with Phil. But the reason why the step really appeals to me is because I'm stepping on a platform. During the pandemic, it actually felt like a performance. So I wasn't missing that feeling of being on stage. As simple as that piece of plastic was, every time I stepped on it, it just felt like, and if you really knew me, you would know that's my favorite thing to do. Stage, performance, singing. I wish I could do it every day, right? And so, which is one of my pain points of Toronto and Canada, is not being able to yet perform and tour the way rock bands do. I think there's been others, Weekend, Drake, I'm saying it to say there's still this gap in who gets to tour, how you get to tour, and I'm on a mission to change that.
I like this mission.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Why do you think that it exists in this way?
The same people are in the same positions.
So gatekeeping.
Yeah. And I say to people, like, meet me where I'm at. Like, some people, the gatekeepers, some of them have never even seen a show. They don't even know the magnitude of the show. Some of them are stuck in Canadian Music Week, 98. Right? And then the new generation, which I still rate them, because they are actually taking care of their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If Jesse's gonna pull up Savannah, big ups. Well, what I'd love to see is like Deborah, Jesse, Savannah, Julie, Divine. Like, something needs to happen where there's that. Melody, Fiona, Tamia, like this. There's a gap of like our generation that hasn't come together because it just wasn't available. It was super competitive and, you know what I mean? Now it's like we're all loving up on each other and messaging, but who's gonna provide the resource to do it now?
Why do you think that's missing? I think the closest thing to what you're describing would be like Honey Jam. I remember that kind of happening.
Yeah.
There was, women from different age ranges and different, genres coming together.
Yeah.
But I don't think beyond that I've seen more of that.
No. The only thing that used to be, and it wasn't black or urban focus, was Lilith Fair. And that was Sarah McLachlan's festival. And I always I'm like, I want my own festival. I'm gonna do it. I'm putting it out in the universe. Like, I want that, I want air to breathe. It's something that's been on my heart forever.
I think you got to do it.
Forever, yeah. Forever. That's
Even this interview setup that we're doing right now, I've worked for so many different outlets over the course of my career. And it came to the point where my identity, I felt, was wrapped up in the jobs.
Right.
Even me as an interviewer, as a host, it was always wrapped up as with the CBC, with Complex, with this. And then at one point, as I kept leaving and moving into other jobs, I felt like every time I had to redefine who I was or rediscover who I was, because my mind was so closely affiliated to that task, to that job, to that title. So finally, I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm still me. I still enjoy doing this, but I'm going to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I'll just go out and get sponsors, but just do it on my own.
Yeah.
Right?
You're so good at it. Like,
thank you. I appreciate
it. You're so good at it.
But
wow.
I think it's your time to do that as well. And you've already done it with all the other stuff that you're working on, right? Like Under Strong and Sexy is independent. You created that.
Totally independent, yeah.
I think I want to see you do that. Whether it's like a self-made tour or a festival, I would love to, and I'll be there, obviously.
Yeah. Thank you. We have to help me get some sponsors.
Yeah.
No, it's a dream, like for real. One band, like just crushing it, all of us.
When was the last time you performed?
Like with the ladies or just in general?
Just in general, like when was the last time you were on stage and you had a full performance?
Oh, like on last Thursday. I perform often. Yeah. With my band and stuff. And that's the thing. Some people don't necessarily know what we're all doing. Like, you know, I do a lot. But I do a lot. I've been doing a lot more in the songs and stories kind of speaker space. Lots of fireside chats, lots of, you know, my heart is just like, okay, I recorded an album in December, and that's kind of, I told my manager, Jason, I'm like, I don't want to just, anyone could just put up on the streaming platforms. Like, I'm not interested in just, okay, I have an album up now. That doesn't make no sense to me.
Right. So
it's got to be set up right, and whatever that means. But performing is something that can't be replaced. That feeling, that live show, and I'm the best at what I do.
You're amazing. I've seen you perform live many times.
Thank you.
And you're a powerhouse. The voice is always there.
I love it. Thank you.
It must be interesting for you to see, like, you know, when a performer's on stage and they have like a vocal mishap, because you could sympathize. But I know for you, probably because of hard work and dedication, but I've never seen your voice ever stumble or crack or anything like that.
Honey, I know how to work through it. Definitely. Even today, I'm a little husky. But I'm a church girl, and there's no auto-tune and melodyne and none of that. There's no correction. You lean into it, and whatever it is, what comes out is what you're supposed to deliver. And so I have lots of practice in that. That's for sure.
I want to end on a positive note. I know you're also a very spiritual person.
Yes.
And you reference your mom and a bunch of beautiful things. But when you think about your spirituality, how much of your success and your happiness and your joy do you attribute to that, and how do you make them work together, your spirituality with your peace?
Wow. So all of it, I attribute all of it to it, and I say that because at a very, very young age I realized, like, my family and especially my mom let me know that I'm special, and that I had a sense of discernment and an intuition that most children don't have, you know. And so it's following that feeling. Those are my Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs through my entire life, sometimes to a fault where it's painful because I'm feeling even other people's pain and heaviness, but I recognize that I'm a healer and I was given this voice. So, you know, I realized that gospel, for example, is just the good news. But some people turn gospel into government. Like, your gospel, like separation to divide us. But if you listen to some of the words, it's like, there's one that says, I'll say yes, Lord, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Lord, yes. I will trust you and obey when your spirit speaks to me. With my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Lord, yes. So I learned that when I was like 5.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
What a treat to have Jully Black sing in my crib. That's amazing. Yeah.
No, but I didn't know what it meant. But now when I dissect it, I was like, I'll say yes to your will and to your way. Like, is it in your will? I want that job. I want that gig. I want that tour. I wanted to sing for the Raptors 2019. But his will was 2023 All-Star. I had to trust and let it go for 4 years. Didn't even think about it with my whole heart.
So are you more accepting of that now when things don't go the way that you planned it? Are you more peaceful with letting that go?
I'll still cuss in my head. Sometimes I'll still cuss out loud. I don't pitch a tent there. I'll visit being angry for a hot second, but I don't pitch a tent. I don't build a house. They're definitely moving through it. And I'll be real. Like, we're humans, right?
Yeah.
Some people over spiritualize things, and this is why I tell people I'm not into this whole being churchy. Because the same church people are worried about their phone bill as soon as they step out the church, right?
Right.
So I'm like, listen, just say you're worried about your phone bill and stop going in like, anyway, that's a whole other podcast. So, it's a whole other podcast. I am much more accepting, but I will cuss. I will cuss. My mom was a Christian, hardcore. And she'd cuss sometimes. She'd be like, I'm gonna say shit. And I'm like, Mom, you can't. Why are you cussing? You're a Christian. She said, let me hear what my mom said. She was so funny. She said, you think Jesus didn't shit? Christ didn't shit. But Jesus took a shit every day.
Wow, that's amazing.
But my mom, hardcore Christian. You have to separate the humanity from the spirituality.
Of course. Of course.
In other words.
That's fascinating. I know for anyone who practices any kind of belief in religion, faith, spirituality, a lot of it is having faith in something that you can't see, right? In something that you can't touch.
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of people have a big challenge in doing that, right?
Yeah.
Let me before we wrap, I know this is a total sidebar, but going back to our moms, right? I grew up Christian as well.
Okay.
Right, super Christian in the church. When my mom passed away, she was an elder at Rhema Church.
Okay.
So, leading up to my mom,
I've known Judith since I was 11.
Say it again.
I've known Judith since I was 11 years old.
Wow.
I gave her first eyebrows.
Wow.
Yeah, I tweezed her eyebrows. We still talk about it to this day.
Way back.
Anyway, go on. Mm-hmm.
So, leading up to my mom passing away, you must be familiar with Rhema and like that the way that they treat it is celebration. Yeah. But also, it was interesting because when you're young and rebellious, my mom wanted me to really be Christian and be in the faith, and I was like, nah, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And towards my mom passing away, getting closer to it, I could see, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make her happy. I'm gonna start coming to church. Started to do it, and then within that, I started to develop faith.
Yeah.
And then I started to get closer to the people at Rhema. And there was a point where some of the people at church were like, so-and-so has the dawn of prophecy. They're able to see, and your mom's going to be okay. They're saying your mom's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So I started to believe it. Mm-hmm. And then when my mom passed away, it hurt the way it would hurt anybody, but it also hurt in a spiritual way because I felt let down.
Yes.
I felt let down, and I could have in that moment decided to be angry with God and just angry with the whole situation. But something inside was like, just find peace in this, right?
Love that.
And I was able to, but obviously with a lot of work, find peace in it. But the most challenging part for me at that time was the faith component. I felt like I lost faith at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for you, even hearing you speak, you lost your sister young. You lost a twin that you never met. You lost your mom later. How do you manage to maintain faith through all those ebbs and flows? Like, how do you practice your faith? How do you keep it strong?
Now, faith is, I have data points. I have data points of what I've already gone through and gotten through. So, it's interesting. My mom would say, your faith gets built after you. And she said it super Jamaican, but she says, when you go through some things, after you got through the whole thing, your faith will be on the other side. So the faith isn't at the beginning of it. That's when there's beard out, right? I gave this metaphor about cars. Like there's a storm happening, and there's those cars that's gonna just wait under the bridge, put on their hazards, and wait till the storm passes. Then there's those other cars, or those other people that's gonna put on their hazards and keep going. There's very little visibility, but they're gonna carefully keep going, and the storm will pass, and they'll be closer to their destination. People still camped out under the bridge, right? Full of fear. So that's how. And I also share when I'm scared. I share when I don't have certainty. I share when I don't know, when I just don't know what to do or where to go, right? Because really, what do we really know? Everything that's happened, I think I said it to us recently, everything that's happened in my life, my career, what people would deem as these big things, happened in an instant and I didn't know it was coming. Once it comes, then you steward it and you're working in it.
Right.
But I didn't know.
Right.
So what do we really know?
Yeah. That's a great point. I'm finding a lot of the when I look back at some of the most amazing things that have happened to me in my life that I'm happy about, that I'm proud of, I didn't plan for it. A lot of it. And a lot of the things that I did really try to break my back to make happen never happened.
Never. Never.
Right? It's funny
Never
how that
happened,
works.
right? So what else is on the other side of the piece? See, this whole pursuit and murky, it's murky. No.
So much bars from Jully today. We're gonna end on two quick rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire, okay.
Number 1, best place in Toronto to eat. What is your favorite food spot in the city?
So, I'm not gonna go big box chain, even though there's a big box chain that I like. But there's a.
You can give me both. Give me the big box, and then give me the give me the mom and pops or whatever.
I'm a sucker for a Joey. I'm not gonna lie.
I heard you speak on this because of your mom too, right?
Yes,
you and your mom spent a lot of time.
We go to Joey because she was picky with her food, but she liked their steak and their salmon, so I'm bringing her all the time. And there's a hole in the wall at Yorkgate Mall called Montego. It's a West Indian store, Jamaican restaurant.
Dope.
Yo, slaps every time. And all of the chefs there learn from their grannies. They're young people cooking in there.
So it's generational.
It's generational.
That's fire.
When I say I would drive from Markham to Jane and Finch to go get a red pea soup or go get a whatever, like anything.
Okay, there's a debate in Toronto about the best Jamaican beef patties in the city.
Allen's. Allen's. Best pastry, has a little bit of sugar in there. It's great. It's the best. No one can talk to them. What are you trying to say?
No.
I have no stake in it.
No, you answered my question. I wanted to know what your opinion was on it.
What are other people saying?
A lot of people say Fami Bakery is one.
I don't know.
They're originally they used to do the Warden Station patties.
Oh, Warden Station patties.
Yeah. So, but now they have a shop. They had a shop in Scarborough, burnt down. Now they're downtown.
Okay.
But they've been around for a while. Fami Bakery.
Warden Station patties.
Warden Station patties are the truth.
I ain't gonna lie. Still.
With the cocoa bread,
Yeah.
that's fire. I'm
still giving Allen's though.
Allen's still takes it over. Okay, I don't think I've had Allen's, so I'm gonna try it.
Kennedy and Steele's.
Oh, I'm lying. I've had it. Yeah, they're good. But I have to go back because I haven't had it in so long now. Fami's the last thing that I've had.
Really?
And it's fire.
Fami?
Fami Bakery.
Fami Bakery, right? The Fami Bakery. Okay.
I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Who would you say? Because I know you've talked to so many and worked with and got to know so many Canadian artists. Mm-hmm. You have to tell me 2. It could be the same person.
Okay.
But who outside of yourself has the best singing voice, and who has the best speaking voice? Like, who has the nicest sounding voice that you've talked to?
Ooh, artists, singing voice. Well, it's obviously artists for singing voice. Singing voice. Yeah, can you put me on the spot like this? Okay, hold on. Best
singing voice.
Best singing voice.
Can't get any help from over there.
Best singing voice. This is terrible. I'm gonna look like a hater right now because I'm very picky with singing voices.
I know, and you should be because you have an amazing voice.
No, well, thank you, but that's not why. But
but you can recognize you've spent your entire life perfecting your voice. You know what a good voice is.
Best singing voice. Oh my gosh. Watch, this is going to be the clip on Instagram. This is going to be the clip. Okay, let me slow down for a second. I'm going to say who I enjoy their voice. Mm-hmm. So there's a singer, just thank you, I got the download. There's a singer named Patricia Shirley.
Okay.
She's a gospel singer.
Canadian. Okay.
Canadian gospel singer Patricia Shirley has incredible voice, incredible control range, and she just makes it look like she's just talking. So I'm gonna say Patricia Shirley as far as like, I'm gonna her voice. I'm giving it to Patricia Shirley.
And the last one is, if this is now you included, if you could make a super group, Canadian super group with yourself and 3 other artists. Who's in this group?
3 other artists? It's Deborah, Melanie, and Tamia.
Oh, okay, that's fire.
Yeah.
I hope this happens.
The 4 of us, that would be, the 4 of us would be dope.
Even a collab or something.
Yeah. We all have different tones. Like, I think we'd complement each other.
Are we gonna make this happen?
Yeah, make it happen. You be the bridge.
I'll be the bridge. We're gonna make this happen.
Even some Christmas song or something.
Jully, thank you so much.
You.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Oh, we did it. I
I have to come up for a performance or something.
Yeah. It's been a while.